I had only one real friend, one that would be open and honest with me, take me as they found me, and that was Beth. We seemed to have similar backgrounds. Our parents weren't that well off, and we preferred reading than going out and getting into trouble. I wasn't really interested in boys. They seemed the immature sort, and I didn't have time for silliness of any kind. Albert and Francis told me that I needed to focus on my studies, then look for work as soon as I left school. The country was rebuilding after the war, and I needed to find a job while there were still ones available, and to contribute to the family pot. I left school with good grades and managed to get a job as a secretary, along with Beth. It was monotonous work. The sound of clanking typewriter keys played in my head outside of work. Ink would stain my fingers, but it was a well-paid job, and it kept Albert and Francis happy. The days would be the same, with work till 5 o'clock, after work drink with Beth, before heading home and telling my parents about my day during our evening meal. I liked routine. It felt comforting. There were no unexpected surprises. That was till Beth had interest from a gentleman while we were having our after-work drink. We were sat in our usual spot, having a glass of wine whilst discussing the books we were reading, when two gentlemen walked over to our table. "Would you mind if we join you, ladies?" Beth answered before I had a chance to process what was going on, and they both sat, halting our conversation and making me feel rather uncomfortable. They introduced themselves, as one seemed to take an interest in Beth, whereas I just preferred it when it was just Beth and I. "Joseph seems to be getting along with your friend. I'm Oliver, a shy sort. I do hope that my being here isn't making you feel awkward in any way. It is certain not my intention." He seemed a very anxious man, second-guessing himself, but was polite and could see that I was unsure of the situation and didn't push for any kind of conversation, which was welcoming. I asked him about his interests, but before he could speak, Joseph turned and tried to belittle him. "He's into flowers and bugs, wandering the countryside and taking his pictures." Oliver went red with embarrassment and seemed to dip his head down, as if this was some kind of horrible pastime. I felt so sorry for him and let Joseph know I was displeased with his words with a very stern look. "You must tell me more. Oliver, what do you take photographs of?" He came out of his shell a little, telling me that he loves walks in the country, capturing nature and the many varieties of flowers that he encounters. I saw nothing wrong with this passion, that he was taking an interest in his surroundings, and not, like Joseph, talking about his physique and all out showing off. I found it refreshing to have a conversation with a man who wasn't into cars, or of similar nature, but loved simple things like the countryside and all it contained. Walking home with Beth, all I could do was talk about Oliver, how nice he was, and the hope that I may cross paths with him again. Beth was not so forthcoming with how her and Joseph had got on, although she did comment on his wandering hands and that he did own a car, both of which I had no real interest in whatsoever. Over the next few months, Beth and I saw more of Joseph and Oliver, but we did separate and do our own thing, which I was more than happy with, as Joseph was a boaster and it did get tiresome very quickly. Oliver, on the other hand, was very thoughtful and wasn't self-centered by any means. We spent our time talking and enjoying our surroundings, and not once did he expect anything from me or make any advances toward me. I was warming toward him. Everything seemed to be going well. I was truly happy, and being with Oliver was making me better as a person, with more self-confidence. We had been together for 2 years now, with no pressure to get married or focus on starting a family, just enjoying our time together. That was till Joseph threw the spanner in the works, and Oliver came to my home to tell me what was going on. Beth and Joseph have broken up, and it's not looking good for them to reconcile their differences. He's told me to end things with you, and for me and him to stay the other end of the city so that our paths never cross again. My heart shattered, somewhat so that I felt I could hear it break like an antique vase smashing upon the cold, hard ground. My world was unraveling before my eyes, and I couldn't hold back my tears. Why did my life have to alter when the relationship of another wasn't working,